Well, you know, the ink is barely dry on that new $25 billion mortgage deal, and already people don't like a lot of the fine print. Some critics think that the banks are actually getting off too easy, but my next guest thinks that deadbeat homeowners are the ones that are getting off too easy. Charlie Gasparino making friends left and right.
Of my whole article in the New York Post, you picked out one line.
Well, I mean, it was pretty powerful.
Yeah, we should point out it's a $26 billion deal.
Right.
I mean, here's the thing. You know, if you think about some of the people that don't deserve bailouts, bankers clearly didn't, but all these homeowners that bought homes they couldn't afford and didn't deserve it. And the way the market works, if you buy something you can't afford and you have to give it back, that teaches you a lesson. It basically creates the consequence that is needed so you don't make that mistake again.
What are we doing? We're giving $1,500 to $2,000. We're not discerning whether they robo-copped out of that house.
Which, by the way, is not exactly the crime of the century, this robo-copy.
But they're not even discerning, right? If you're out, you pick up a check.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of, I mean, the robo-signing illegality, which is simply a clerk stamping it, not the legal officer, even though this is a mortgage that's been in arrears for 2 years or maybe more, that's the sort of barrel that they got the banks over. Once they establish that that's illegal, which it is technically illegal, you get them in the table, and that's where they created these massive refinancings of underwater mortgages for people that haven't been paying or some that are on the verge of not paying. And by the way, part of this deal, if you read it, they were writing out checks. And like I said, Neil, there are so many Americans, 90% of all the mortgages out there, you know, they're not involved in this. And these are Americans who sat down at their kitchen table, said, okay, here's what I make at the end of the month, here's what I owe, and maybe or maybe not I can afford the home, and they did the right thing. And this is essentially...
They're not getting any $1,500, $2,000 checks.
You know anybody that's doing the right thing, that's getting money out of this thing? They're not.
What about the other part of it, the big part of it? You mentioned $26 billion for tops, $26,000 off your principal. Seems very pricey to me.
Yeah, it's not hitting everybody. I mean, I think they're trying to sell this as some sort of a, you know, it'll stop the housing prices from going down. I don't believe that at all. As a matter of fact, in order for this to come back up, you have to have housing prices to come down, you know, actually quicker. Because what you want is the market to hit its natural level, and people with money to start buying them again at reasonable prices with reasonable borrowing. You know,
so
20%
this doesn't change that equation.
Not that much, and it creates moral hazard, which, as you know, is the consequence to no risk. The consequence, no consequences, take a risk. The only thing positive out of this is that we at the Fox Business Network broke this story.
It's on my
your show.
It was quite an honor. Will it even? Is it done deal? I mean,
yeah, it's done. Everybody, all this, the way this worked was, and by the way, this took more than a year.
Right.
There were many imminent. We said imminent on your show.
Right.
We knew it was imminent, okay, but there were many imminent announcements along the way. You had to basically rope together 50 state attorney generals, which they did, 49 and 50. I think the holdout just came back in. The HUD Secretary, Sean Donovan, did this, basically put the screws to New York and California, the big holdouts. If you didn't have California part of this, because California has a lot of these underwater mortgages, that would have been a problem. So they finally did it the last week, and here's the deal. It's done.
All right. Good job, buddy. Charlie Gasparino.